Hi and welcome back to 𝗕𝗘𝗪𝗏. Today guys, we're going to dive down into the charts for Vechain, do one of our updates, keep it nice and brief, see what's going on with the VET token to see, if we are expecting more downside or whether or not we are looking for some upside. Guys, as we get into this, if you find it useful and informative, hit the like button. I really do appreciate that. If you happen to be new to the channel, then why not go ahead and subscribe, tap the bell, select all notifications, and you won't miss another video update that we do here at 𝗕𝗘𝗪𝗏. Right, with all that said, done, and out of the way, let's jump on down into the desktop and take a look at what is going on here with Vechain. Okay guys, so we are going to spend a little bit of time here to start with, just taking a look at our daily chart. Now obviously what we're going to zoom right in here for a second so we can see that kind of price action that's been going on. Obviously we had that area that we were coming down to on our trend line. This is about 4th of December. So obviously we can see that here we had a good bounce to the upside, and this actually was an ABC move. Obviously you'll be familiar with Elliott theory hopefully by this point. Pretty much corrective or impulsive moves is what we're looking for here with the occasional triangle, and I'll get into triangles in a moment because that is what is actually happening here on our daily chart. Now obviously with ABC corrective move, obviously it's not impulsive up, so we measure that using the Fibonacci retracement tool from the high to the low, and of course we'll just go ahead and move that onto that B wave low just here. We'll just actually move that B wave out of the way so we can see that we get that onto the point there. And the most probable area that a C wave would be a 1-to-1 ratio with your A wave. So obviously we measured that A wave distance. We then basically repositioned our Fibonacci retracement tool at the bottom of wave B, and here we can see that we actually topped up at the 1 area, so running from 0 to 1, which was the distance of our A wave. So again, this is a standard correction wave count, so basically ABC, very, very corrective. And what we mean by corrective is short time frame. It's quick, it's over, it's done, and it's not impulsive, as in you end up with 5 waves, so it's a 3-wave count. And here we obviously have a push up, a pull back, and a push up, right? So we can see that that got completed through here. That was about 10 cent. We obviously found that there was a resistance up this area as well, also causing a bit of a bottleneck. And not only was it the standard size for a C wave, but it was also up against resistance. So we know that was going on here. So we know that there's an ABC on our daily, and then we're looking for an ABC to the downside. And again, you can see this very, very clearly. Here's your A, here's your B, and we're waiting for the C wave, right? And this basically leads us to believe that we are expecting a small amount more of a discount on VET before we start to see a reversal. Okay, and again, we're going to measure this by taking a look at this A wave. We're going to take it from the low this time up to the high. Okay, and what we'll do is I'm just going to remove the ABC because it gets in the way a little bit. So we're just going to go ahead and put that just here. So we can see that we have a high area of our A wave starting. We pulled down, we completed the A wave just at this level, which was about 8 cent. Okay, then we bounced up, and of course we bounced up to the 382 area, or the or between the 618 and the 786, which actually would be thermally a 702, and we can measure that as well by actually running it from the top to that bottom. Okay, so we'll do it in the same way just here, and we can see that we came right up against here, which is the 702, about 9.6 cent. Again, also an area of previous resistance. As you can see here, we had pre-marked that up. Okay, so we already know that that is an area of resistance right there, as it was resistance previously, and also resistance over here. So again, most likely area for a bounce. Okay, so we bounced up just past, wicking past the 618, not quite to the 786, but we fell at the 702 at 9.6 cent. Then we pulled back down, but this is not yet completed. So we now have a top here for our start of our C wave to the downside, right? But where does the C wave actually finish? So here is our A wave up, and our B wave down, and our C wave. Sorry, I did that the wrong way around. We'll do that as an A wave down, a B wave up, and then our C wave coming down. Now this actually looks like we could find a 1-to-1 ratio with our A wave and our C wave coming in at about 7.3 cent. Again, we can see that the wick came down to the 786 already. Okay, so we already know that we've found ourselves in a bit of a point of dojo. And again, this is actually something that you find quite apparent here. Basically, the market doesn't necessarily know what to do next with Vechain, and this is actually a positive for us. Okay, so we had a dojo just here. Basically, this meaning that we opened at the same point that we closed. We had a wick high and we had a wick low, but we closed and we opened at the exact same position. Yesterday we saw something very similar: high wick high and a high wick high and a really long wick low. Okay, and the body was really, really small. Not quite a dojo, but again, the open and close were very, very tight together. And today, right now, at the point of recording this video, we are pulling down, and we can see that we actually found support on the 702. Okay, so although there is a 1-to-1 ratio that is the most probable outcome, as in A wave and the C wave are usually the same distance, here we can actually see and acknowledge that this C wave has gone down lower than A, and we have found an interesting level of support on that 786. This could actually be a good reversal point for us. Therefore, no more downside is likely to go beyond that point. Obviously, we should acknowledge there is a worst case scenario, which in case would be all the way down here at 5.9. I don't think that is likely to be the case. And obviously the most probable is right here on our trend line. So this is an area of focus for us right now with Vechain. But there is also this acknowledgement that the markets are exhausted. Okay, so I'm going to pop that down there. But I would expect actually we are not likely to. Although this is the most probable area, my opinion would be that because the market is exhausted here and here, as in there are very few buyers and very few sellers at this particular point in time, the market is quite stale. It doesn't necessarily know what to do. It's almost in that kind of influx, but doesn't know necessarily which way to kind of flow. Here we have obviously a bit more of a downward trend, but again, not going lower than the previous low. So positive stuff is here. The stochastic RSI on this daily chart is heading down into the oversold. This actually does support a slightly lower low scenario. So do watch out for that as we look to wipe out that stochastic into the oversold area. We could potentially pull this down into this low round. But again, just because it's most probable doesn't necessarily mean it is likely to occur, considering outside factors, DeFi, stable coins, etc. And of course, all of this is kind of the smaller kind of trends. And if we actually, I'll tell you what I will do. I'll leave that on there. And I'll just remove the fib for a second. So that's our area that we think we're potentially going to pull back down to. But if I zoom on out here and we actually pay attention to the bigger trends, we can see that this is an Elliott wave triangle. Okay, we have the A wave, the B, the C, the D, which is what we're trying to get into right now, and then the E wave, which will be the final move before we get that massive explosive breakout. Now, when it comes to this particular move, this is obviously on the daily chart. It takes a lot of candles to build up into this move for wave D. So right now, actually, at this point in time at 8.2 cent, Vechain's actually pretty much at the low point that I would expect our E-wave to be. So a long position here, going much longer, isn't a bad shout if you want to buy and hodl your way through. Obviously not financial advice. I know Chris has been buying Vechain recently based on the fact that this is a really good proposition, and the likelihood of going down to these levels again in 2022 is quite slim until the bear market arrives. And obviously, you know, nothing is set in stone until we actually see that wave D either. So there's a little bit of risk management in here that we have to consider. Chris has been buying Vechain. I have not been buying Vechain. My bags are relatively packed. I wouldn't mind buying some more, but I really want to see wave D come in because my tolerance to risk is a little bit more adverse than maybe Chris's is. Okay, so obviously on that note, Chris has been buying in with the acknowledgement that yes, this is a nice low point, that we are potentially going to see some interesting highs before a potential pullback. And of course, at this point down here within wave E, that's usually where we're going to see that massive spike to the upside for Vechain. So Chris has been piling in. I'm going to wait and hold out until we see the bottom of wave E, probably once I get confirmation that this triangle has completely played out, with the expectation of an explosive 1 through 5 move to the upside. So overall, the daily chart's actually looking very, very good, right? We have good kind of understanding that there's a potential for some more downside, although I do think that is limited. And I do think that we are likely to move up towards that 16-cent range before we see another pullback down towards our 8-cent range. Again, that would be completing this triangle out in the kind of end of Q1, I would imagine, going into Q2, where I'd then expect a really big rise here with Vechain overall. Okay, so obviously the expectation is to take Vechain from its current price level up to about $1, and that's the conservative target. We can see the trend-based fib on our weekly chart actually indicating out $1.20 for Vechain based on the current trends that we've seen so far and the continuation of the bull run. Okay, so obviously being a little bit more conservative, we have a kind of a staged approach to our exit, and if you're interested in that, we actually dropped the member video down in Discord a couple days ago, so you could go check out that. Link to our Discord server in the description down below, and links to memberships also on YouTube or Patreon down below as well. Right, so let's actually take a look at what has been going on with our hourly chart, right? The kind of the micro movements in here. So obviously we have this bigger ABC play. This is what we've just been mapping out. Okay, and here we can see, and we should acknowledge that that is probable, actually, a highly probable area for a pullback. This here is our buy zone. This is an area that we want to be focusing in on as well, just around this area, and we might actually get a consensus here. So here is our pullback, okay, and we want to measure this distance, okay, so we want to take hold of this distance here and find where we are likely to go ahead and pull back. So we're going to take that high point. We can see that we want to get some kind of retracement. Now, we haven't actually pulled up much further than the 382 at this point. So again, the retracement levels here are not the best. So I'll actually go ahead and throw it the other way around for a bouncing perspective, so you can kind of clearly see what I'm talking about. Here we've kind of come up to this 382. That's about 8.5 cent, and then started to consolidate back down again, just around that 236. Obviously, the expectation would be to bounce up towards at least 8.9 before potentially seeing this this C wave back in here, or a C wave of sorts. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean it's going to go up to that kind of point before we start to see that pull back, and we could see this as a bit of a bounce up to that 382 and then a continuation to the downside. The stochastic RSI on our hourly is supporting that move, so let's go ahead and actually take a look at where this thing might actually land if we were to go ahead and acknowledge it that way around. This would actually take it down to about 6.8, but again would cross our trend line here, and would be an overextension of our C wave on our daily. So again, there does look like there is more downside to occur here, but again, good support could be found just down here as well, in and around where our expectations are for a C wave overall. So no matter which chart we are kind of looking at the moment, we are seeing that there is downtrend still to come with Vechain, which means there's a bigger opportunity to potentially get in Vechain at a bit of a discounted rate. Once we see this in, we should be looking at some kind of explosive move to the upside, and that explosive move should allow us to continue that D wave, that kind of high point that we're looking for, which is to be about 16 cent. So again, taking a look, if we were to able to get into this buy zone down here, we could potentially quite easily, comfortably, rise this back up very, very significantly from those highs that we had recently, and add a few decent percentage points to the portfolio, and I don't think it would actually be too difficult to do. It wasn't that long ago that we actually saw, just a few weeks ago in fact, that we saw this low point actually come in, and we saw a 40% boost on our portfolio just with Vechain at that point. So I think it's worth just noting that some entry points down here could be had. This particular area that we want to be focusing in on would be 7.4 down to that lower range of about 7.1. And again, this comes back into this gap here. Again, we've wicked into this, so we might actually go down a little bit lower, and say that's maybe 6.9 cent. So you can see we wicked into it, but then we found good support on this line. So if this is an area that we're going to come back to and revisit, we're going to find a significant bounce from this point. And if we actually measure that, we actually saw here a 42% rise very, very rapidly in just a few hours, in terms of price for Vechain. So down here seems to be a good buying opportunity for Vechain, as we look to complete out an ABC just to the downside here. Obviously, this does potentially ride it lower, but I think that's actually likely to hold out quite nicely for us overall. So guys, there's a brief update for Vechain. Obviously, it does look like there are going to be some opportunities to buy up some Vechain at some discounted rates. The outlook is obviously still very bullish. We have an Elliott wave triangle that does indicate moving out towards $1, and based on an explosive 1 through 5 move that has the potential to really rise the price of Vechain significantly. Now, obviously, I'm not a financial advisor. It's important that you do your own research and do not invest on anything I say or do in these videos, but actually research it. Use TradingView to draw up what I draw up here. See if you come to the same consensus as I do as well. If you haven't yet joined us in Discord, go and jump down there. We do a lot more in terms of answering questions and doing more TA screenshots, etc. down in Discord, so why not go ahead and check it out. Guys, with all that said, done, and out of the way, if you found it useful and informative, hit the like button. I really do appreciate that. If you happen to be new to the channel, then why not go ahead and subscribe, tap the bell, select all notifications, and in doing so, you will be kept up to date with all the video updates that we do here at Cheeky Crypto. With this said, done, and out of the way, I hope everyone has a fantastic day, and I'll catch you all in the next one.